David Bird here, and usually in January in California, Southern California, I am hiking in scenic views like this, where there is snow. But this January I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do some jungle trekking. I'm going to go on the El Camino Real. The El Camino Real was the road that goes through the jungle of Panama. It goes from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. It is the road that the Spaniards used to carry the gold that they stole from the Incas. So they transport the gold from basically Panama City to Portobello. So it's a 50-mile trek, and I will be doing that this January. We just finished crossing this lake by canoe. The canoes are just dug out long pieces of a tree. This is called Lajuela Lake. This is basically man-made. This lake is a result of the Panama Canal. The El Camino Real is actually under this lake. So when the canal was made and this lake was made by flooding the canal, the original El Camino Real was flooded with it. So we just crossed the lake by canoe, and then we're going to continue the El Camino Real in the morning. I just found a yellow-headed gecko hanging out on this tree stump. The yellow-headed gecko, the males have a yellow head, like the name implies, and their body's all jet black. But the females, they blend in perfectly. They have great camouflage with the wood. So this is a part of sexual selection where the females are choosing the males that have the bright yellow head, but the females are well protected by camouflage. Because the jungle's canopy is so thick, a lot of plants struggle to get light. So there's a competition among photosynthetic organisms to get the canopy light that's way at the top. In order to compete, there's a flower or a plant called a bromeliad. Bromeliads grow on top of the trees so that way they can reach the sun, because if they were to grow on the ground, they wouldn't get any light. Bromeliads are small or sometimes very large. Here's one on this tree. Bromeliads are also really important for amphibians because they collect a little pool of water in the middle of them, and many frogs will lay their eggs inside of them, where the tadpoles will then grow and swim inside the bromeliad. So they'll grow up in an aquatic environment, but at the top of the trees. I'm here at a community called Quebrada Ancha. Quebrada Ancha is a little town inside the middle of the forest. We're staying here at an elementary school. They are making food for us, playing soccer with us, and helping us get settled for the night before our long journey down the Camino Real. Last night I was able to hear a lot of white-lipped foam frogs while I was sleeping, so I got up in the middle of the night and luckily I was able to find them. So we're able to find some of the foam nests and actually see some of the white-lipped foam frogs. So I switched to the red light because the frogs are not bothered by the red light and they still croak. So let's get a little bit of the sound of the frog. So this is Nick, the geographer. Nick, tell us about the bats last night.
The bats were fun. They kept screeching at us, waking us up, flapping their wings around us. And we have hammocks set up. So we have ropes on either side tethered to poles. And so when it would rain, all the bats would go inside and take refuge, and then they would run into the strings. So we'll be like sitting there, and then our hammock would vibrate and screech, and flapping wings would go everywhere, so wake everybody up.
Alright, so throughout Central America, they have these termite mounds that are hanging in the trees. And if you break off a piece of the termite mound, you can actually get termites. The termites taste kind of like a spicy carrot. So here's Nick.
Hey guys.
On this trail right now, we're on the Camino Real. This is the first real day of hiking the Camino Real. And right now, at this part, there's a swarm of army ants. And we had to run the trail because if you stop for a second, the army ants start crawling up your leg and biting you. So the entire part of this uphill, we had to jog up to avoid getting attacked by the army ants. So I barely noticed this guy. I almost stepped on him. He looks just like a leaf. He is a jungle cockroach, and let's see if you can see him. So I'm gonna move down here. He blends in really well with the soil. So, and most species of cockroaches actually don't infest things like the couple that infest our houses. The jungle cockroaches are very similar just to a regular beetle. So we're at one section of the Camino Real where the cobblestone is still present. They used river rock and they brought it over to make the trail. So this road is from the 1500s. So we're here setting up our hammocks for the night. We're going to be staying at this town called Santa Librada, and we actually get to stay in an old church. So here's Nick and I setting up. Panama has a lot of amphibians. The rainforest is a great environment for amphibians. Usually there's only 3 types of amphibians. There's frogs, newts, and salamanders. Some people think that amphibian means that it could live in water, but actually amphibian means 2 lives. Amphi means 2 and bian means life. And amphibians are called two lives because they start the beginning of their life with gills, and then the second part of their life with lungs. So if you think of a frog, when a frog hatches, it's a tadpole, so it has gills, and then it metamorphoses into the adult where it has lungs. Even though it has lungs, it still spends most of its life near the water, and that's why places like Panama are so important for amphibians, is because there's so much water around. So here in Panama, we need to filter the water so that way we don't get any microscopic bacteria inside our stomachs. So Nick right now is filtering his water for tomorrow.
Hello, y'all.
The filters that we use are very small micron filters that the world's smallest bacteria can't fit through. So no matter how dirty the water is, when it goes into the filter, it comes out crystal clear. So we're in the church, and hopefully you can see the size of this bat. So Nick got bit by a tick, and it was just holding on to him, so we removed the tick, but the head stayed inside him. So now we're going to try and remove the head. We have to quickly put on some type of antiseptic so that way it doesn't get infected. Here we stumbled upon a hornet's nest that fell out of the tree, and you can see it. It's very paper thin. The hornets have abandoned it because it fell. But when we look in the tree, it's kind of far away, you can't really see it, but you have the hornet's nest right next to an ant's nest, and the ant's nest is called Aztec ants, and they have a symbiotic relationship with the hornets. They both protect each other. So like the hornets will protect the ants from anteaters, and the ants will protect the hornets from other types of aggressive ants like army ants. So this is a Malay apple tree. It's a Malaysian tree that has these red fruits on it. They were brought here from Malaysia, obviously, and I'm about to have one. It's really sweet and kind of bitter at the same time. Out of our 4-day hike, this is the only place that has a clearing big enough for a helicopter to land. So if anyone was to get severely injured and needed helicopter rescue, this is the place it has to be done. Today's only the second day of real Camino Real jungle trekking. So if we were to get hurt further out, we got to come back to this point. So someone has to be carried or taken by horseback from a villager. Other than this clearing, there's no place where the tree cover would allow a helicopter to land. So what you're seeing right now are the leafcutter ants. Leafcutter ants cut leaves and they take them back to their nest, but not to eat them. They actually can't eat the leaves themselves. What they're doing is they're going to feed it to a fungus that they cultivate in their nest. So these guys are little farmers. They spend all day collecting the leaves, taking them back to the nest, and feeding the fungi that they eventually eat. Last night, Nick and I went for a night walk, and we just wanted to see what kind of nocturnal nightlife we can find. And we found a lot. We found a lot of spiders, of course. That's all we find over here. Found some beetles. Got some pictures of a possum. We actually got really up and close with a possum that was running around the trees. And the possums here have these little hands that they can use to grab the tree branches, and they look more like a rat than a possum. But got a really good video of that. So this beetle lights up bright yellow, and then he's got two little spots on him, and then when he flips over, he clicks.
Yeah.
So
he turned off his headlights.
Yeah, turn him over, and see, and then they turn green, like fluorescent green.
Yeah.
When I first brought him, they were like fire
orange.
color.
Yeah.
yeah.
As he clicks. There you go.
Oh,
come on!
Oh, don't do it again.
Maybe the lights.
They're now
Rip
bright
off.
orange again.
Yeah.
He will lit up the abdomen and fly away at some point.
Okay.
Hopefully he won't fly into the fire.
Hopefully.
So me and Nick are walking around in the dark, and there's a giant spider on me. I'm gonna hand the camera to Nick. So our feet are starting to take a toll. Nick is wrapping his blisters in duct tape.
Oh, yeah.
Getting ready for the long hike today.
It looks way worse than it is, everybody.
Feet are breaking out in rashes from the moisture. Putting on wet boots sucks. It's horrible. How you feeling this morning, Nick?
Like I could use more sleep.
tree creates these long red flowers that are the shape perfect for hummingbirds to come hover and get the nectar that's inside. While they get the nectar inside, they're also pollinating the flower. The tree actually controls how much nectar it can release. It releases just enough not to fill up the hummingbird, so that way the hummingbird has to keep coming back for more. The hummingbirds actually get really territorial over their flowers, and they'll protect these to make sure other hummingbirds don't come and steal their nectar. We keep finding a lot of spiders out here and often tarantulas. So we stopped for lunch. I didn't get much video of, this is our third day of hiking. Fourth day? Third day. Third day. This is our third day of hiking the Camino Real, and today was very technical. We had to do some canyoning, climbing up waterfalls, some bouldering up rocks, none of it with rope. And the forest was really thick, so it was kind of dark, which didn't lend itself well for video. And also I needed my hands free to make sure I'm not falling over or going off a cliff. Here's where we're having lunch right now, and that large loud growl was a howler monkey. We saw a couple of them earlier, but they were too far in the distance to get them on video.
Sounds like an angry stomach, huh?
Yeah, he's really loud. But here's our lunch spot. So one of our porters walked by a bushmaster, which is a venomous snake, and we all stopped to get a picture of it. This might not be something that you'd expect to hear very often, but we're really lucky to stumble upon the bushmaster. That's a really shy snake. It usually lives in areas where there's no people around, and it's sitting there on that trail waiting for a little rodent to run by or something small so it can nail it and then eat it. Yes, they're very venomous, but they usually don't bother humans, and that snake wouldn't have struck unless we stepped on it or provoked it or bothered it in some way. So we were walking and I saw a fer-de-lance viper. So this is a baby fer-de-lance viper. The locals here call it ekis because from the top it looks like it has X's.
Hey Dave, ¿cuántos X te gusta?
Me gusta dos X. This is the glass wing butterfly, because you can see through his wings. So Nick caught a bullet ant. It's probably the largest ant we've ever seen.
Here's a scale.
So the fourth day of the Camino Real was definitely the hardest. So we have one more day. The first day we hiked through some villages. We ended up staying at a elementary school. Then the second day we hiked through the forest, but then we ended up staying at a church inside a small community. Then the third day we slept in the rainforest. The fourth day is today. We're spending the night in the forest. And then tomorrow's the fifth day and we'll make it to Portobello. But today was definitely the hardest, very technical, and Nick and I are exhausted. Right, Nick?
Yeah.
But we found these beetles. They're actually called true bugs because the word bug we use for all insects, but that's not right. There actually is a genus or family of beetles known as bugs. Here's a couple true bugs. Here's some ants right now that are excavating their home, so you can see them carrying all of the dirt outside of the nest. Okay, so we just made it out of the woods. We finished walking the dirt road. Now we just made it to a cement road, and we're now at a fonda where we're gonna eat, get some cervezas, then we're gonna get in the van and then head into Portobello. I'll probably clean up a little bit. I don't want to scare the Portobello folks when I walk in looking like this and smelling like this, but here's our fonda. How you feel, Nick?
We made it.
Yeah. Oliver, how do you feel?
Awesome.
All right, Jim?
Excellent.
All right. We hiked all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean. The main goal of the Camino Real was to get the gold from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. So the Spaniards would haul the gold through the Camino Real, the same route that we just took, carrying any type of gold, silver, pearls, anything that was valuable, get it to here, Portobello, where they would then load it all on a ship and then ship it off back to Spain.